Well, Thanasi, this weekend is AEW Revolution, and it is that time of the year where we give our thoughts, our predictions. So let's discuss what our predictions are for AEW Revolution. And to start off with, I'm actually going to pick the three-way match for the AEW World Championship between Samoa Joe, Hangman Adam Page, and Swerve Strickland. And I honestly think we're going to see a title change here, and I think they're going to put it on Swerve.
I
I just
frankly, I agree with you, and I'm so looking forward to it, to be honest, right? Because he made that kind of he made it clear that he's still a badass on his during his promo against Joe on the Go Home show. He's the guy who broke into his rival's house, threatened the infant, basically. So he's the guy who beat up the 18-year-old at his own home in his own garage. So this guy's for real, and I'm really keen to see him there. I don't know why Hangman teased the exit from the match because actually I got excited when he said I'm not going to be there and it's going to be a singles match. I was like Joe versus Swerve is going to be better, but in the end, let's let's go for it. Swerve Strickland. Whose house is it? The new world champion's house.
After that, the next one I've got up is Orange Cassidy versus Roderick Strong for the AEW International Championship. And more as a hopeful prediction, I'm also going for a title change here with Roderick Strong, purely because I would love it if one of these days a new faction formed, said they're going after these things and actually went after those things properly and actually got them. So just for that sheer fact of the first thing, this new faction of which Roderick Strong is part of said is they're going after all the gold, of which he's going to go for the international championship. That's why I've got him going over in this one.
I I see that, and it would be a very welcome title change for me. I guess I haven't seen this Undisputed Kingdom, though, being as strong as it could be. It's been a little bit of a letdown, and I'm disappointed because I was really keen for it. I was one of the few, actually, that was keen for it going into the new year. But I just don't feel like Roddy Strong quite has the momentum to unseat the longtime champion of Orange Cassidy. So I'm going to go with OC.
The next match we've got is Eddie Kingston versus Bryan Danielson for the Continental Crown Championship. And in this match, there's also the added forfeit of if Danielson loses, he has to shake Kingston's hand. So this one I feel is very interestingly poised, but I do feel that Eddie Kingston is going to get the win in this one.
I've got to tell you, I'm yawning here. I got to tell you, I think the same. And I think there's an easy way to come out of it where Brian Danielson just refuses to shake the hand and just kind of like kicks his ass after the match, like brings in BCC. I I will say this. Brian Danielson being more of a heel, sort of with the Blackpool Combat Club recently, um, has been interesting, but it feels like a hot potato sort of back and forthing. And I'm going with a realistic outside of kayfabe prediction here. Brian Danielson has not yet held gold, and he's probably kind of like that Shawn Michaels phase of his career, circa mid 2000s to late 2000s. And yeah, I'm just going to go with Eddie Kingston retaining to continue the reign.
The next match we have is a match that confuses me because not because I think it will be bad. Will Ospreay versus Konosuke Takeshita is the match I'm talking about. And the reason it confuses me is for Ospreay's marquee, technically AEW debut as a full-time member of their roster. And he's going up against technically a faction mate. Why? Because according to Don Callis, no one is good enough to face them except themselves. Which to me is just stupid. And this is part of my problem I have. Sometimes AEW books great matches on paper, but they let that exist on its own. They let that be the marketing instead of actually adding something to it. And I hope these guys do something well with this so that it does stand out. But I do feel a little bit just why is this happening? Before I give my official prediction, can I say what are your thoughts on this?
My view is actually that Don Callis being who he is, this is the rationale he's provided. But the story I think and I hope will unfurl to be that Will Ospreay actually turns on the family as he becomes a winner, that they get pissed. Maybe he turns on Don Callis or something to that effect, maybe on the Dynamite after the show, and heads towards his babyface run proper as he heads towards All Out 2024.
All in, you mean?
All in 2024
Yeah,
in the UK.
yeah. So are you predicting Will Ospreay to win here?
I'm predicting Will Ospreay to go over.
Yeah. I have to agree with you just because it is his debut match as a fully fledged member of the roster. I just think it makes sense. Though I wouldn't be against Takeshita getting the win because then he can say he's got it over Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, arguably the two best in-ring performers in wrestling today. After that, we've got Timeless Tony Storm versus Deonna Purrazzo for the AEW Women's World Championship. And to me, I'm intrigued by the history, but I feel like there's more to tell about this story. And that is the only reason, really, that I feel confident in saying I think champion retains here. Tony Storm wins.
The fans have not yet turned on Timeless Tony Storm, therefore, it is not time to take that belt off of her. And yeah, that's right. It's a nice little pun.
I see what you did there.
And I do think that she will retain. I think she should retain because I think there's a lot more to go to this story, notably to do with Mariah May, of course, potentially with some other opposition as well. But yeah, it's just not quite time for Deonna Purrazzo to become world champion, and that's okay.
The next match I have is Christian Cage, our patriarch, versus Daniel Garcia for the AEW TNT Championship. I think, again, this is an easy prediction for me. I think Christian Cage retains here. Daniel Garcia was not the original plan. So I think it would be a little reckless to just give him the title here if that wasn't where you were going for at this time. And I think Christian Cage is just, he's so good at everything he does that you wait for a natural conclusion to arrive before you actually bring an end to his reign.
I thoroughly agree with you, and likewise for the exact same logic, I'm actually going to go with Christian Cage as well. We can still sell how good Danny Garcia is because if he's got Kill Switch, if he's got Nick Wayne at ringside, we can still screw Danny out and have him come out looking quite strong. So yeah, I think it's a safe bet to go with the Patriarch on this one.
Our next match we've got to discuss is FTR versus Blackpool Combat Club members John Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli. This is an interesting one for me. I feel like it's not a match I would have thought would be on a card, but it's here, and I'm not against it either. What are your thoughts on who wins here?
It's a bit of a like I guess on the surface of it, it's a little bit of a thrown together, but not really kind of match because
Yeah,
they've been coming at each other's throats on TV, so there has been some build there, and I guess it's one of those matches that I didn't know that I wanted, but now that I see it there, it's like actually yeah, this is kind of cool. I'm going to give it a really good shot. As far as victory, I'm going to go with FTR on this one. I'm going to go with the baby faces because I'm hoping that they actually get a good run coming out soon. I feel like they've been a little bit flying under the radar, and I'd like to see them return to prominence a lot higher.
I've got Blackpool Combat Club coming out victorious in this one. I don't know. I have a sneaky suspicion that this might not actually be the end of this little beef. So I think I'm giving them the win here. But to be honest, I could see it going either way. It's more of just a toss of the coin for me, to be honest. Next match we've got is one where we don't even know all the competitors yet at the time of recording, and that is this All-Star Scramble match. And it's got announced participants so far of Chris Jericho, Powerhouse Hobbs, Hook, Lance Archer, Brian Cage, and of course Wardlow. And I'm very intrigued by this. But not necessarily because I think it's going to be a great match, but I just kind of want to see what it is. Like, what do you think of this, and who do you think is going to win?
It's
Because
unclear. It's
because
unclear what the stipulation is. Is it
what
1-4 to a finish?
I think it might be 1-4, but what I do know, and what we do know is that whoever wins this match gets a future AEW World Championship. To be honest, that is what's guided me towards my prediction here of Wardlow. because I think Lance Archer, Brian Cage doesn't make sense. Chris Jericho, I mean, he's always there or thereabouts, but I just think they're not going to give him that here. They're not going to need it. So it's really between Powerhouse Hobbs and Wardlow for me, and I've just gone for Wardlow.
I've got two pieces of logic. One is supposing that Roddy Strong does actually go over in the international championship match, which I don't think is going to happen. But supposing that he did, it would also make sense that Wardlow makes a run for the world championship. So that's what I'm thinking along those lines. Um, so he's one candidate. On the other side, because I think Swerve is going over and going to become the world champion, I think a good number one contender for him on a TV match is someone like a Chris Jericho, just to kind of help cement him as like an easy transitional number one contender. So
Mhm.
those are the two that I'm tossing up between. However, as far as what the original contest was for Chris Jericho to not be on the show, it was supposed to be a meat madness match, a triple threat between Wardlow, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Lance Archer, in which I thought that Wardlow was going to win. So in all, my prediction is actually going to go on to Wardlow.
And that brings us to what I assume is going to be the main event of the night. This show has been billed on this retiring star in Sting. So obviously we've got Sting and Darby Allin, who we haven't addressed it, but they are now the AEW World Tag Team Champions, which I don't know. I don't think that was a good idea at all, and personally. But they will be defending their titles against the Young Bucks, who are now the artists known as Matthew and Nicholas Jackson rather than Matt and Nick. So this is a really interesting one to me. I think that the Bucks will bring out a good high action match. Where do you see this one going?
This one just it brings up so many question marks, because yes, I accept that it's a good candidate or it's a candidate for the main event spot. However, let's take it as a given that it's going to be in the main event spot. Then that means that the right decision is for Sting and Darby Allin, or rather Sting, to put over the people on his way out, and that's the Young Bucks, who are heels. So getting heels to win the main event of the pay-per-view. And it just doesn't kind of feel all that right. The alternative is that they win, but then they have to relinquish the belts, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I'm tossing up here. However, if we put it in the middle of the card, then that means that the world championship and the crowning of the first black world champion happens in the main event where it should. This one can go in a semi-main, it can open the show, or go in the middle before a P-break match like the All-Star Scramble. And we can get that special moment, I guess, of Sting retiring as a champion, right? That would make a lot more sense. Or frankly, even if he loses and goes over, it still makes sense to have heels win before the main event. So what this is leading me to is actually a criticism of the booking more than anything else. So if I have to choose who I think is going to win, I'm just going to go with what really should be happening, and that is the Young Bucks winning, because it means that Sting is putting someone over in his last match, and I think that's the time-honored tradition. What do you reckon?
I'm torn. I really am torn. I can see it going either way. And to be honest, it's a match where I just think, especially putting the tag titles on it, has just made it a lot more confusing and a bit more of a mess. Because the Young Bucks don't actually need to be crowned by Sting victory. They are so established as a tag team. Whether you like them or hate them or think they're overrated, they have a supreme legacy in tag team wrestling, especially of this modern era. So I'm really torn. I honestly am just predicting Sting and Darby Allin because since Sting has come to AEW, they've protected him like no one else, like really no one else. I don't think he's lost a single match up until now. So I think they're going to give him that moment. He retires, and they then relinquish the tag team championships. Or Darby Allin gets a new partner of which to defend it with in the meantime, and then drop it. But yeah, I'm going with Sting. It's one of those. I think Sting could fall in that sorry, not Darby, in that Undertaker category of actually going out with a win wouldn't feel like an injustice.
Interesting. But
Uh,
with the championship?
yeah, look, I'm not gonna lie, the championship's thrown everything out, you know, out the window. But yeah, I think Sting and Darby will win, and it'll be a nice feel-good moment to close the show. But I mean, we never really know.
Such a
Let us know in
weird
the comments.
call.
Yeah, let us know in the comments what you think's going to happen
Mm.
at AEW Revolution. This one, I always want to hear our listeners' thoughts, but especially in this case, I'm very curious what they think of everything that's been going on with AEW and Revolution and the Sting Darby Allin Young Bucks saga.